decided to give a talk.
Yeah, I decided I need to give a talk. And then I said, oh wait, there's like a meetup that's like way down in Provo or Draper or whatever that place is called. Draper, I think it's called. And that's the wrong direction to go at 5 o'clock on I-15. So I decided I'm going to start my own meetup group. And the first meetup had 60 people show up, if I'm not mistaken. It was crazy. We were originally called the Python Web Meetup Group. And then during the meetup, I was like, hey, yeah, any suggestions? And somebody said, why isn't this just the Python group? And I was like, that's a good idea, but there is another Python group. And everybody's like, whatever. Nobody goes to that group. So I decided to start this meetup group. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just making sure our folks at home can see us. Hi, folks at home. So yeah, that's how Salt Lake City Python got started. Here's Joe I was just talking about. Utah Python was the original name of the meetup group, and they were hosted out of Draper, but then we actually met up a year after I started that group, and we decided Utah Python's kind of the umbrella organization of Python people. Can everybody see this okay? Should I make it a little bigger? No? Good. Okay, so yeah, we decided that's the umbrella organization, so we kind of pool all our funds together. For example, Python Utah North over here, they grabbed some funds from your donations. They also donate into our funds, so it all works out. It may or may not be socialism, but we're not going to get into that. I know, I'm just kidding.
It's hackerism, okay?
Yes, exactly. There are other Python meetup groups. I mentioned Python Utah North, who's run by that gentleman with the bald spot, who's also my father, so I can make those jokes. There's the Salt Lake City Pie Ladies. They are awesome. Anybody from Pie Ladies here today? Oh, hi, Isla. Isla's our Pie Ladies person today, it looks like. Do you want to give a pitch for Pie Ladies? No?
We're meeting in November. It's going to be lightning talks mostly. Please come.
Awesome. And then did you want to pitch Python Utah North?
Yep. We meet in Logan, third Wednesday of the month, and this next meetup is going to be fun because I have the honor of presenting, and we're going to do it on DocX Python. If anybody's not familiar with DocX Python, what we do is we're able to take Python and create a Word document without Word being on the machine.
Nice.
Nice.
So that's a thing. Let's see. Also, we have Python at the Point. This is the meetup that meets the second Thursday every month. They are formerly the Utah Python group, but now that's the Draper group, Python at the Point. Provo is now part of Python at the Point. Is anybody here from Python at the Point? No? Okay. We also have Girl Develop It, SLC. Anybody from Girl Develop It? Sorta? Oh, okay. Yeah, do you know what's coming up next, or?
I mean, we just always meet. It's like the third Wednesday of the month, so I don't know specifically.
Third Wednesday of the month. Okay. I'm going to keep spinning the camera so people at home get nauseous. We have a couple websites. Dylan, where are you?
Hey.
Oh, hi. Dylan coded up Salt Lake City slcpy.com, also saltlakecitypython.com. They're just the same site. Yeah. So that Django might be out of date, but that's okay. I don't even know if that's still up. Yeah. Anyway. But now you know how to, after this talk tonight, you'll know how to submit a pull request for fixing this. Speaking of pull requests, anybody know Angular? Yeah? Okay, could you fix our site, utahpython.org? Thank you. Go ahead and send a pull request for that. It tries to pull from the Meetup API, and I think it's been doing an okay job, but it's only pulling one resource at a time, and it should be pulling for the Utah North and the Python at the Point, and it doesn't. I should probably make a GitHub issue or something. I'm very, very bad at managing open source projects, I've learned. Our sponsors are Pythonistas like you. Thank you. So if you haven't had a chance yet, we ask for a $5 optional donation. And I insist that if you're a university student, please don't donate because, you know, that's like goes towards 1/1000th of a percent of a book. So just don't.
Unless you're a trust fund baby.
Yeah, if you're a trust fund baby, it's $20. X Mission is also a proud sponsor. Is anybody from X Mission here? Yeah, right. Hi, Matt. Woo! Go X Mission. They've been sponsoring us monthly. Actually, they've been sponsoring everything monthly. So those guys are awesome. Do you want me to pitch them, or do you want to pitch them? I'll pitch X Mission. X Mission is a local, organic, friendly neighborhood ISP. They will not spy on your packets and then offer you random deals on your internet service, unlike others, Comcast. They were originally part of the Utopia Network. They were one of the founding people, if I'm not mistaken. And
One of the founding providers.
yeah,
One of the premier residential ones.
Yeah.
yes, and they give
And
you
they
like,
were around even in days of dial-up.
yeah. I still remember seeing the old X Mission logo in my dial-up screen. But yes, X Mission's awesome.
Are you going to go back and edit the video and put that in here?
Yes, I should do a dun 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 dun. Yes, X Mission, and also the University of Utah, which, where is that here? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's here.
Oh wait, what's this building called?
The INSIC building. Yeah, right? No. What is it? Correct.
Calls it INSCC.
INSCC. I like saying INSIC, okay?
Yeah, I think
Because it's sick.
really but it makes those of us who have worked in this building giggle because that's not what anybody calls it.
Hey, there are more of us than of you two, so we're going to make it into a thing.
No, I think you should make it into it.
Yeah.
I think you should. Yeah. And we'll jump back to
It's
you.
on the internet now, so
It's got to be true.
so it has to be true. And who else? Oh, Team is sponsoring tonight. They have some swag that I'm supposed to. Woo! We got a Team T-shirt, which is awesome. Got Team stickers. This Team journal. Yeah, they told me to mention this, or I'll lose my job. No, they didn't. They didn't say that. I'm just kidding. No, they got some cool stuff. They're going to have more swag. They're looking into sponsoring a hackathon with us that I actually just spoke to the CEO and CTO and the marketing guy about. So that sounds cool. In the hackathon, we were talking about giving away Raspberry Pis. So yeah, there's some actual changes at Team. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. New sponsors are always appreciated. Your name could be here, right here. Or it could actually be on the Meetup group. Let's see if it pulls up okay. So Meetup today changed their website. I don't know if anybody noticed. Was it today? It was fairly recently. So now, for some reason, I don't see sponsors anymore. So that's not good. But anyway, yeah, we can usually have the sponsors loaded on the sidebar, and I don't know where it is anymore.
Feature, not a bug.
Yeah, it's a feature. I don't know.
That's a big oversight on their part. Yeah. It's like a huge oversight on their part.
So all of our money that you guys do donate is open accounting, so you can see all the ins and outs. I think we haven't done August yet because I was gone. And then, of course, tonight's money won't be there. But I'm pretty sure I did July. I have to double check. I haven't sat down and done the accounting yet.
It's all
Cool.
on Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, we take Dogecoin and Bitcoin and
You were talking about
Litecoin.
just investing it all in Bitcoin for us.
Yeah, I should have. Then we'd have like double the funds. And then we'd have like half the funds. And then double the funds. Yeah, something we do. If you're a new member here, we let you do a quick introduction, your name, your occupation, and something non-coding related. In this case, the Eclipse was awesome. So I'm going to ask people what they were doing during the Eclipse. So I'm Ferris. I'm the chief backend janitor at Team, and not chief, just the senior backend janitor. Okay, I just demoted myself.
CBD.
CBD, yes.
CBD.
And I was in a plane over Idaho during the Eclipse, and it was awesome. We saw totality from the air for a lingering moment, and it was beautiful. Anybody else? What?
You didn't tilt it or anything?
Well, we didn't do any flips,
No.
but we did like spin into circles. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Who else is new? Raise your hand, and you are going to introduce yourself because there's a lot of new faces. We'll start with this gentleman in the red over here.
My name is Matt. I am a new professor over in the business school, and I was also in Idaho on the ground during the Eclipse.
Nice. It's beautiful, isn't it?
It was amazing.
And then you get to pop it over to another new person.
I'm Andrew. I'm between jobs right now. I just graduated from Westminster College for Computer Science. I was inside during the eclipse. I decided to not brave the crowds, and I just decided to miss it. Because there is another one in 20... I'll see the next one. I didn't plan for this one.
Well, if you wait long enough, there will be one totality over Utah. I think it's 2045. Yeah, so. You gotta wait some time though. Maybe that could be the next time you go outside. Who else is new? I'm just kidding. This gentleman right in front of you.
Yeah, I'm Spencer. Let's see, occupation. I work at a local bar. I code in my free time, and it's super fun. So I'm just here to learn. And in the eclipse, I don't know why, but I guess we're all sharing where we were at. I was up some canyon in Utah, just hanging out, waiting for it to happen.
Cool. That's cool. So to give you perspective, I was fixing bicycles in Vancouver when I was learning Django. So I didn't study comp sci. So who else is new? Over here.
My name is Dawn Darris. That's not Bella. That's just my username at Meetup because you never know what weirdos you're going to meet.
Got a room full!
That came out wrong. I've been in Salt Lake since May. I came out for a job that didn't work out, but before that I was in predictive analytics with IBM, and I was on a federal contract with Northrop Grumman's Centers for Medicaid and Medicare, and IBM. I do broad predictive analytics, and my experience with Python is mostly automating models. That's not very extensive, so I'm trying to learn more from people who have extensive experience. So be patient with me, please. So,
No worries. Everybody is a beginner at some point.
oh, the eclipse. I also was indoors, and I was here, and I saw some of it, and then I also checked it online too for the path of totality.
Yeah, that was cool what they did. Did you go on the NASA site?
I did.
Yeah, that was really cool of them. And then Google's going to be putting together a montage based on everybody's cell phone locations who were like taking pictures and stuff of the eclipse, or their GPS with the DSLR. So that seems like a cool project when it comes out. Sweet. Who else is new?
Yeah, see, who needs to go anywhere?
Yeah.
We all got computers.
Go ahead and pick on somebody you see because there's a lot of hands.
Sure. I'm Ryan. I work here at the University of Utah. Do some Python programming. And I was here on campus during the eclipse.
Cool. Did you get Eclipse classes?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. I wish I had made it to somewhere that had the totality. That sounds pretty cool. Next time. Go ahead.
Sure. I'm Jess. I'm a data scientist at Backcountry, and during the eclipse, I was super jacked. I bought a ton of solar eclipse glasses, gave them to everyone I knew, and I was in Lander, Wyoming. It was sweet.
Oh,
nice.
I was too. I was too.
Cool.
You were Lander? Yeah. So
Did you notice how everyone started cheering when totality happened?
Yeah, what?
This solemn event can only be celebrated by cheering.
Yeah.
Nice. Who else? Go ahead and pick somebody.
Okay, my name is Colin. I graduated for BYU a year ago in advertising, and I'm pretty good at HTML and CSS. And I started a project, and my Python developer moved to Europe, and I haven't heard from him in 2 months. So I'm gonna try to take a crack at it and learn some, and hopefully find some people.
Yeah. The thing is, it's just really easy. Just don't tell anybody, okay? That stays in this room, okay? And where were you during the eclipse?
My front yard.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty easy.
Who would you like to pick on?
Right here.
I'm Aaron Estrada. I'm a founder of a startup called Meetup, and we're hiring, by the way. We're trying to find people who mostly know front-end stuff, but we use Python as the glue for our totally sweet orchestration automation platform that makes animation studios in the cloud. We always joke about the fact that it's like multiple layers, like an onion, glued together with Python. So it's basically an onion made of glue, and the glue is Python. So, but right now we need help with the front end stuff. So during the eclipse, I was at my apartment and it was totally overcast. So I kept looking out the window to see when the shadows on the ground would be hard, and it never was. So I saw a few moments when the clouds kind of broke, but it never got the cool hard shadows with the little crescents. So.
That's what happened to me in Vancouver for the last one. It's like, is the eclipse happening? No, it's just gray.
I was in Albuquerque, so in case you're wondering, I don't know if the sky was clear here, but it wasn't clear where I was.
So on the other half of the startup,
yeah.
I'm Ethan Estrada, we're brothers. I'm chief code monkey at the startup, and same pitch.
Yeah.
And for the Eclipse, I was in Springville, and I made a pinhole camera for the first time in my life, which is really sad because I'm an animator and I should have made a camera much longer time ago. So, yeah.
I'm Tim. I work at a Vivint Smart Home. I'm a web designer though, so I have base knowledge, good foundation of front end stuff, and Python. So I'm just here to learn more because I want to transition more to this route. And I was at my desk during the eclipse, looking out the window.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Did you at least track it? If you're at Vivint Smart Home, not solar, right?
No, not solar. Just a smart home.
But did like solar people like put something together, like a project, and it's like, look at all of these houses losing power.
We did look up GE, did something for that.
Oh, cool.
And kind of like show the effects of it. So
yeah. And you're like, why aren't we doing that?
Yeah. Oh, well.
Anybody else new? I saw a couple hands. How about this young lady over here?
I'm Lexi. I'm a data architect working in a software company. What's that? About Eclipse, I was with him, so.
Yeah, she got a first class ticket. I mean, it comes with the ring, I think. So. Lexi's my wife. Who else is new?
I'm Mark. I'm an engineer growing between jobs. I've been asked a couple times about my programming abilities, so I don't really have any. So I'm a beginner and would like to build that skill set.
Thanks.
During the Eclipse, I was in the path in Smithberry, Idaho.
Oh, beautiful.
What kind of engineer are you?
Yes.
Chemical.
So my father, by the way, started as you were civil or mechanical?
Civil engineer.
And then
the way I tell it is I used to do everything the hard way, which meant I wrote a program to solve all my problems instead of writing them up by hand.
Yep. But yeah, you too can make that transition. So, all right. So, one of my favorite parts of this.
Word processor on an IBM.
One of my favorite parts of this meetup is the networking. This is definitely an awesome place to find out who's hiring and who's looking. So far, it looks like we already had 3 people who contacted me in the last couple of months to say, hey, can I post that we're hiring? And I said, yeah, sure, of course you can. But I always insist if you're going to be pitching that somebody has to come here if they can. So yeah, we'll start with bpress. I think that's Alex over here. You want to pitch bpress?
Yeah, so we write software for libraries. If you want to know more about what kind of software, come talk to me because it's not something I can put in a sentence. But we do have over 500 institutions. The company is based out of Berkeley, but I live here in Salt Lake and I work remote. And if you wanted to live here in Utah and work remotely, that's totally cool. So my email's right there, or you can come talk to me when we encourage.
Perfect. So Team is a little startup in downtown Salt Lake that is trying to reinvent the workplace experience by using technology. I work there as a senior Python backend developer. There are a bunch of listed jobs over here. Everything, even director right now of engineering is open. If you have the acumen to do that, that is definitely something, and you're coming to these meetups, I would love to work under you. So I'm serious. If you're here at a meetup and you're like trying to get yourself better at this kind of thing, and you've led a team before, come over and I'll interview you along with everybody else. So that would be a great one. We're looking for a VP of marketing. So even if you're not a tech-oriented person, but you have a marketing background, that position's open right now. And we are looking for software QA leads. So if you have any QA experience, we're definitely looking for somebody with that kind of experience. We're on our way to be automating stuff in QA with Python. So if you have any of that experience, that would look awesome. There are unlisted positions you can also ask me about. There are positions here that I would consider junior in a way, which would be like social media marketer. Yeah, the demand generation is more of a sales job. Event and field marketing, that's more marketing. But yeah, there's lots of little things open right now at Team. They're definitely making a hiring push this season. So talk to me or talk to Dylan if you want. I'm better looking, so I would talk to me if I were you. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so that's Team. Meetup. These guys are awesome.
So you kind of heard the pitch already. Yep. I mean, well, sort of. I did the technical version of the pitch. So, but what's the problem that it solves? So visual effects and animation are essentially, these days, that means computer animation. You use computers to make pictures. And what's the pain point? Well, the equipment is expensive. You essentially have to buy, potentially, millions of dollars of equipment to render the images and to do all the work, and that's before you've made any revenue. So startup costs can be kind of painful, and then also the workflows are very bursty. So it's kind of like you need a lot or you don't have much going on, but you still have all the overhead. So we're solving that problem using the cloud. And with the cloud,
Lots of Python.
Yeah, and a lot of Python. Cloud orchestration that's all automated to build purpose-built infrastructures for, we're starting with visual effects and animation, but eventually we could use it for other things like deep learning, various data science types of things that typically you would use cloud for, but you get more of a turnkey infrastructure for it that's a little more fit for purpose rather than the raw infrastructure as a service that you typically get from the cloud. So that's what we're working on. And what we're looking for in terms of right now for developers, I mean, my dream developer is somebody who has a visual effects and animation background so that they can speak to our customers and understand their sort of specific concerns. But that's not a requirement. Really what we need is somebody who's good at front-end stuff like CSS and then JavaScript, like frameworks that can feed single-page app types of stuff. Because to be honest, that's like not our strength. We're pretty good at the back-end stuff and sort of a lot of the business logic part, but we want to make it more pretty. So, so if you'd like to do the Python stuff, but you're really strong on the front-end stuff, that's the candidate we're looking for. And then if you know visual effects and animation, then you're like a superstar, and we definitely want to talk to you.
Is this your site?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, the video's no good, but yeah, that's the site. Meetup.com.
Awesome. Who else is hiring or knows people?
So UBiota is a company that helps people understand
I always forget how to spell it.
Or in their garden, but mostly people are interested in what's in their poop. And so we help them understand that. And sort of like Team, we have a lot of needs, but we're biology. So if you don't want to work in business, you want to work in biology, but you're an executive, wants to make a move to some cool startup, or want to do some marketing, or you want to help with bioinformatics, or you want to do Django Angular, we're always looking for people that can do that.
What was the name of the company?
UBiota. It's lowercase u and then a capital B-I-O-T-A.
Where are you located?
We are on 300 West, 825 North. So we're looking for all those people.
Boom. Do you have a website? Yes.
Yep, yeah, we do, and the new version is going live today with all kinds of cool.
500 error.
All kinds of cool.
No, I'm just.
Fucking booze. Error data compared to everybody else.
Wow, that's a cool site. Wee. Okay. Anybody else know? Oh.
Yeah, so my project is called myroadmap.io, and it's a software to help track students' progress throughout any sort of rubric. And the company we're beta testing it with is the LDS Church. And we have a V1 that has some bugs that need to be fixed up. It was written in Python Django. And so I'm looking for someone to just help fix up the bugs. Let me know how much you think it would cost. And then if you're interested, it could be something that would be either an equity position or a continual pay to continue fixing it up and making it better. So.
I'm listing it as contract to hire-ish. Is that okay? Okay.
And my email address would be Colin, K-O-L-L-Y-N, .lund @gmail.com.
Anybody else looking or know of somebody in the general vicinity who's hiring? You're waving at me.
Wow. Yeah, I'm looking. Well, so I'm a student at Newmont University. And
I went to the wrong. Okay, if you were doing the who's looking part, you got to stand up and market yourself.
Okay. I see. All right.
You got to introduce yourself again.
All right. So my name is Mache. I'm a student at Newmont University. I'm in the web development and design degree. I've got experience in Angular, React. I've worked in a bunch of JavaScript, but I love Python. I love working in Django and Flask. And yeah.
I'm going to rate you as a Python fanboy, which is a good thing.
That's yes. Pretty much what I go by at the school anyway. So.
Awesome. How do you spell your name?
M-A-C-I-E-J.
M-A-C?
I-E-J.
I-E-J.
Yeah.
And then, do you know how to get to this site?
Yeah.
Okay, put your email in there.
All right, good.
Cool. Who else is looking? This guy with the red shirt.
Well, it's official. After 22 years, we had a fourth production yesterday, and I'm on the market.
Come on, market yourself. Yeah, I know, right?
I know how. Here,
it's been working at the same company since I was 7, so.
I've been working there for the last 20 years, and today I sent this to Ferris, and he didn't like it much. Instead, he told me I should go with something like, let me read this. Since the dawn of personal computing, I've been using digital technology and a myriad of ways to solve problems effectively.
I'm just saying, you got to sell yourself.
So maybe I'll change that pitch to something closer to what Ferris had in mind. But yeah, I'm looking. At this point, I'm also teaching at the University of Phoenix online. And I'm teaching MBA students MIS, so I have to put it into grade 8 terms, you know. So if you have managers who need to be taught about what you're doing, I'm probably the person to talk to.
I guess that triple conversion thing is going on.
Right now, I'm not sure whether I'm looking for a teaching position, consulting position, news tech, whatnot. Self-taught, like Ferris said, I started out in civil engineering.
Yep.
And now I'm a PhD in MIS. So.
Cool. So yeah, that's Louie, aka Dad. So.
Thank you, guys.
Anybody else who's looking? Oh, over here. Remind me of your name so I can.
It's actually Dawn.
What?
It's Dawn Daris.
D-A-W-N?
Yeah, D-A-R-A-S.
No, that's
the last name is.
Dawn is correct.
Is it okay if I put it on the public channel, or you'd prefer no?
It's totally okay.
Okay.
Yeah. A-S. D-A-R-A-S.
A-S.
It sounds like Harris, but it looks like Duras. You're spot on. So I have a background in both behavioral science. I was a therapist for a long time, and then I went back and got an analytics degree, so I'm a hybrid person. I'm also hybrid in the fact that I have predictive analytics, but also natural language processing, social media analytics. I helped to start the social media analytics team for SPSS within IBM, and went on to start the social media analytics for for Starbucks with IBM, and then built a predictive analytics using natural language processing to detect food stamp fraud for IBM, and then one of a major Midwestern state, and brought over to counter fraud because it became like
political.
Yeah. And so then that's how I got pulled over into counter fraud, and after that I was pulled into doing things like anti-money laundering and counter fraud, and continued on with that skill set. But my major love is social media analytics and being able and doing a lot of branding things. I helped to brand Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor. Really love that kind of stuff in mixed martial arts. And so if I was to kind of carve out a dream job, it would be with combining those kind of skill sets. I've moved over into using R for doing some of those things, and now I'm looking at Python because I really was good with the enterprise stuff, and now I'm looking more. I understand open source is kind of a big deal now. So I'm trying to stay fresh. It's a stretch, but I'm looking now, and I really appreciate your expertise. And thank you for the time.
Yeah, excellent, Mark. Anybody else who's looking?
My name is Yannick. I'm finishing up a data science internship at Health Catalyst this summer. And so next month I'll be looking for data science type jobs. And maybe I want to make a plug. So I moved back to Utah last year after being away for a long time, and showed up at this meetup and discovered this company called Health Catalyst. And suddenly, a few months later, I was doing an internship there. So this is a good place to meet people and learn about jobs.
I work there too.
You're on Levi's team, right? Cool. Oh, go for it. A first.
I guess I'll step up. Darren Humphries, and I worked at Intermountain Healthcare for 4.5 years in electronic health records, and just finished a master's degree in biomedical informatics here at the University of Utah, so I'm looking for a job. And I work for currently a nonprofit that we're getting started out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, that is based on driving the communities throughout the United States toward a learning health system. So understanding what a learning health system is kind of a book chapter in itself. But our organization, the Learning Health Community, is intent on bringing everybody who's working toward learning health systems together so that we can build one. And that address is learninghealth.org. And if any of you are interested in being a part of that, you're welcome to do that. And also I'm looking as well. I'm interested in Django and Python. Took a Python class in my master's program, and interested in continuing that. So thanks.
Baron Humphries?
Darren. D-A-R-I-N.
Okay, and if I misspelled your name or don't have your email, please feel free to go on and correct it and then add an insult in the comment section. So, thanks. Anybody else who's looking?
So I just graduated.
Who is I?
Okay, my name is Andrew Goldman. I just graduated 2 weeks ago, computer science major, and I'm kind of looking for anything. My strengths are Java, Python, and I kind of did the whole web development. I did a HTML, CSS, PHP database, entire kit for an entire website kind of web development thing. I did one class for that, so my main strengths are Java and Python, but I can do web development and C and some other stuff. So I'm open to anything. So that's me.
Thanks, Andrew. Anybody else? Cool. Usually the ratio is opposite, but we actually broke it. It must be September or something, right?
We've got more people hiring than usual too. So.
Yeah. So there seems to be an influx. Other hiring resources are, I think it's who'shiring.io, right? Has anybody seen that?
Is that Utah or is it national?
It's national. Yes.
There's
So if you follow Hacker News, yeah, Silicon Slopes is also local. If you follow Hacker News, every month they do a Who's Hiring. This person wrote a script that turned it into a website, so it's kind of awesome. And today I was kind of looking, and there's a lot of Utah jobs. And then you just like filter it by Python, and you're like, holy moly, that's a lot of Utah jobs. Recursion, they actually were here last month, I think, for you data scientist people. I know that they are still looking for the right person who has a good mix of data science and health science. So anyway, that's another place to look. I will actually paste this. And yeah. Boom, now the ratio's a little better.
Stack in the car.
I know, right? And community news real quick, Python 3.5. Lots of bug fixes. Python, Django, and also PyCon Australia just happened. Keith Russell-McGee is one of the core developers of Django. He's from Australia, so he gave a number of talks. He's working on a new thing called Beware. Lexi's actually an open source contributor to that project, her first one. And yeah, that's a pretty awesome one. PyTest was updated, just some basic stuff this month I'm seeing. Any other community news anybody knows about?
On Humble Bundle, there are two O'Reilly bundles going right now. One of them is Data Science, which has, I think, 3 specific Python books, and there's the R in a nutshell, and there's several. It was worth looking up.
Good stuff.
And then there's another robotics, a smaller robotics one that I think might have had a Python or 2 book in it. And there's a Raspberry Pi and the other one, Arduino, a couple of specific books about that.
If you don't know what the Humble Bundle is, you can go to humblebundle.com. What's nice about it is you get to pay what you want. And they also will donate stuff to, for example, charity. It's really easy. So you could be like, I'm going to pay $15 and screw O'Reilly, I don't like them. Let's just give it all to Code for America. So it's a pretty awesome site if you've never seen it. They used to start with video games, and now they do a lot of different offerings. I have like a Google Play library full of their books. Yeah. Cool, that's awesome. Thanks for that note. I will link that. And sweet. Anybody want to give an October talk? Because Joe will not be able to make it.
I was going to do community news.
Oh, okay. Community news? What was your...
Sort of related. So the VFX industry has the VFX reference platform, and they're finally moving to Python 3 as of 2019. Right? Yeah. Keep in mind there are scripts.
This is what we got to deal with.
Well,
there are scripts at Pixar that have been there for like 15 or 20
Dropbox
years.
is still Python 2.7, and that's where Guido Van Rossum works. So, like the creator of Python is still working in a Python 2.7 shop. So don't feel too bad. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Django 1.11.5 came out yesterday with some login fixes and regression fixes.
Did I have the wrong number?
That's from August.
Ah, you're right.
And then,
That's the last month.
I know, right?
Google's cloud servers are actually deprecating Django channels.
What?
Yeah, in October, because it's not keeping up with their standards. They're suggesting everybody switch over to Firebase for real time.
That's why. It has nothing to do with... Never mind. I know the author of Django Channels, Andrew Godwin. He's awesome. He's also a pilot who is a Python aficionado. Really cool guy. He wrote Django South, if anybody knows what South is. Cool. Any others? Going once, twice? Sweet. It's going to be a 40-minute talk, it looks like. Who wants to do a talk in October? Somebody should do it. Yeah? What was that? Metapipe wants to? What? Did I hear that? Well, you don't have to. I'm just.
Is there anything anyone wants to know about animation or VFX?
Here are all the suggestions we've had.
Been brought up before. You guys use that?
Blender has been brought up plenty of times.
Didn't we have one that was like a...
I've got plenty of Blender friends. We do a lot of Python stuff, so I'll pick their brains.
Let's chat.
I work in a lot of proprietary tools like Houdini, which are really expensive.
Yeah.
But Blender, yeah, okay.
This all sounds interesting.
Yeah, we've been wanting a 3D Python talk for a couple of years, so.
Oh, okay. So I'm not like foisting it upon you.
No, the reason I found out fairly recently was that this meetup takes place exactly during the Blender meetup. Like they have the first Wednesday of the month too. They used to. Yeah. So. Yeah. Oh, I'm not going to tell you that, but I know exactly where it is too because it's the same building as Team.
Oh, I know which place you're talking about. Those guys.
Coolio. Sweet. So these are all the topics that have been suggested. I think you're still down to do one in November, perhaps.
November, I'll let you know.
Okay.
December. Yeah, but it'll be on time series forecasting.
Time series forecasting, which is awesome.
Very exciting topic.
I want to do this one if we have a team hackathon, because this is Python on a postage stamp, so it's like running Python embedded, which is kind of cool. But yeah, that's one of the suggestions. So before we start the talk, I would like to grab some water. I would highly suggest that if you haven't done so already and you have your laptop, that you go to my GitHub and you download it and you get your virtual environment set up so you can follow along with my examples. In the meanwhile, I'm going to grab some water. And you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Go. You want to see what I mean, by the way? You just type in DJ music, and it starts everything up. It's like, oh yeah. Yay. Okay, so my talk is pretty much an update of the talk I did 3 years ago at our first meetup, which was about Django. I decided I've learned a lot in the last 3 years about how to do Django coding. So I figure I'd share my newly found knowledge and the oldly found knowledge with you, if oldly is a word, which isn't. So there's going to be a bit of live coding, but there's also a repo. I highly encourage people to take a look at this repo. This repo also has this thing called releases, which are basically Git tags. So if you know anything about Git, you can just go and make a tag. And all of these tags actually build the site up piece by piece. So it's kind of cool. You can like rewind and then diff against like, oh, he added this and then he added this. And be like, oh, that's stupid. Why didn't he do that? So this also lets you make pull requests against this. And as I do with everything, I always fork to Salt Lake City Python, and that'll fork it so that if you go to github.com/slcpython, you will find a copy of Django music. So here we are, Django music, and everything's covered in the README. And then the presentation that I'm giving is actually an IPython notebook, because I wanted to teach myself a different way to give a presentation. Because every time I give a presentation, I do it in like a different way, from Google Slides to did one with LaTeX Beamer. But actually, this was super easy to do. Just FYI, this is my presentation. But yeah, let's take a look. So there's going to be a bit of live coding with this as well. So please bear with me if that falls flat on its face. But first off, who's ever written a website before at all? Boom, like almost everybody in the room, right? And it looks something like this, right? Where you have your doc type and your head and all this other fun stuff. Except it probably doesn't have this part. So let's talk about that a little bit. So the first thing that I did to demo this was I made a very basic web page. If you look, there's a bunch of little step zeros for Django. And in this case, it's installing it and all that other stuff that I mentioned to do. But once we get past all that yak shaving, as it's affectionately called, we can build a web page. And really, it's just this easy. It's literally, let's call it even 5 lines of code. We'll even give this little gap thing its own little line of code. And really all you have is a Python import, this guy, and you have a Python function, and in that function you have a parameter, and you have a variable name that points to a web page, HTML, that you made, and then you call the function that you imported over here. Now let's cover it a little bit more in depth. What's importing? If you've never coded before, you're like, what is this from import? This looks all complicated. But really, if you got through all the yak shaving steps, that's all you did, is you basically set up something called a library. And a library is my #1 reason I love Python, because Python has an awesome community. Unlike pretty much any other programming language or community, Python's is pretty fantastic. We don't take ourselves too seriously. Python is literally named after Monty Python's Flying Circus. So the whole point of Python is the community. I was actually having a chat with one of my coworkers the other day, and that's exactly what I said. We were comparing Java and Python and like JavaScript full stack stuff. Python, in my humble opinion, has one of the best communities out there, if not the best tech community. And that's why. This one line encapsulates a lot of what I love about it. There's another line that encapsulates a lot of what I love about it, and I'm going to open this, make you super huge, present mode. And while we're coding along, we'll have a shell open. So Django gives you this option to have this shell once you start these first initial steps of starting a Django project, and you follow these closely. You have this option that lets you run a shell. And that's another cool thing about Python. It has something called a REPL, and I forget what REPL stands for. What's REPL stand for? Read, evaluate, print loop.
Something like that.
I just call it Mr. REPL. There's a lot of stuff you can do. You can type in code one line at a time. So, for example, if you have IPython, because you followed the instructions, you should probably just have IPython started up once you start that. You could say from Django, ooh, that's cool, dot shortcuts. Oh, look, and all I did was hit tab, and it finishes what I'm trying to type, render. Oh, okay, oh, there's another one too. Or, speaking of Python, this is always the one I like to do, import this. And this is the Zen of Python. If you're ever wondering architecturally how to put something together, just open this up. I do this at work, maybe once a week, actually. Yeah, I do. I still do it, and I still double check something if I'm like really thinking, how should I do this? Oh, it's going to be more complicated. Well, this is probably going to be really terse, but at the same time, it's more explicit. And of course, explicit is better than implicit. So, yes, meditate on the Zen of Python, even if you're a C coder. I mean, it's pretty awesome. So yeah, there's also, of course, import anti-gravity. Has anybody imported out anti-gravity before? Yeah? You go like that, and it'll open a new slide. Oh, well, it's opening this for some reason, but anyway. Yeah, it opens an XKCD about Python. It's really fun. But yeah, Python's a fun language. Seriously, it's like, sometimes I wonder why they pay me to code this stuff, but they do, so I'm really happy about it. Python is a toy language that can do everything. It is the second best language at everything. But you're here, you already know that, so I'm going to stop selling Python. Let's go through this web page, shall we? So, if you open the app, ooh, this I definitely need to make bigger, don't I? And I have no idea how to make this bigger in Atom, but I'm using atom.io. I insist on using this open source editor because it's free. I used to use Sublime, but this is actually much better to use because you can go home and download it for free, no license. And this is too fun. That stuff's too fun. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe you can. But anyway, we're going to start with this Web Pages app in here. And what's nice is you can kind of see the directory structure. So we have this project named Django Music. And then we have our apps, and our first app that we're going to take a look at isn't really an app, it's a very basic web page. So you guys know this, right? This is a very, very, very basic web page hosted with Django. And then Django has this idea of views, right? And the difference between Django and Flask is that Django is a little bit more, how do you say, prescriptive in terms of what where they want to see the files, what the files should be called, things like that.
Another term is opinionated.
Opinionated, ooh, I like it. See, I'm learning too. And in this case, you pull up your template name, and that template name is webpages/basic HTML. And to do that, this part gets convoluted, and sometimes people get lost on it, but it's apps, web pages, templates, web pages. Yeah, you say it twice because it's doing a root level import and all this other fun stuff. If you did set it up right, all of your settings are actually in apps Django Music settings. And this is just some settings stuff. I did something very naughty that you should never do, which was I uploaded the secret key to GitHub, I just realized, but that's okay, we could change it later. This isn't going on prod. I'm not talking about deployment for this talk. That is not the scope of the talk. The scope is just learning some Django, learning some Python. And at this point, we're looking at web pages. So to give you an example of what I meant by the whole, oh, I'm everywhere today, the whole, there we go. What I meant by git tags, you can actually check out certain tags if you want. So in this case, let's go to 01, and we'll see what the app looked like before I added all this stuff. So cool, it's just going to be web pages, and it's just this very basic thing. Boom. And all you have to do is add your view and the URLs. So you put your URLs in this root level thing, and you tell it, hey, I want this page thing that I import, because look, you're already writing something, you can import another library, but a module this time. I'm not explaining this well, am I? Any questions so far about that? Super basic stuff? Maybe not too basic? This is the fun stuff, right? All you did is take one function, give it a little variable name. No, not there. Boom. And this variable name is the template name. So it's all really just this function that Django comes with, which is render. Yo.
So you said views.
Yes.
I'm wondering if that's similar to Objective-C views.
Is it? I don't know Objective-C. Does anybody know Objective-C?
Well, there's different windows, and you can layer the windows based on. So it's just basically this cascaded windows.
A view is a business logic that takes a request, which is just like, hey, I am requesting something from the server, and here's the object, and in this case, we're going to render it and do stuff to it.
A little different.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying.
No worries. But that's kind of boring, right? I mean, what's it doing? That was boring. Let's do something more interesting. So now we're going to actually add a form to this page. Well, I should actually show you what's going to happen with the normal one, hey? We're actually doing web stuff, so I should pull this up. So it's not found because I'm not running my server. So once you're installed, all you have to do is manage.py run server. So just like we have that shell command, we have run server. Now that's not how you'd run it in deployment, but again, this isn't a deployment talk. So locally, all you have to do is copy this little guy and go here, and it'll say page not found because you added it to this URL, which is pages. And note that it knows where it is, or it knows where it could be, where all of your pages are listed. So you go here, and this is a very basic web page hosted with Django. Huzzah! Nobody says huzzah anymore. We need to start saying that again, people. Okay, so let's check something else out. Literally, we're going to let's check out the next tag. The web app. So the pages is still here, but I also added this new app, and it's called the web app, and this actually does stuff. So I decided to kind of frame this around music. That first page I was going to actually turn into like albums and stuff, but I didn't have time. But basically, let's say we have all these albums that we want to sort. Okay? So now we can use something called a Python dictionary, which is just one more way to store data, and we just write everything out by hand. That sounds great, right? Everybody loves doing that, right? Not really, but the point of doing it this way is to just show you that when you have this dictionary object, you can now do a for loop inside your template. Everybody clear on what this means? Yeah? So for album in albums, oh, what's this albums thing? Well, we have this context variable, this dictionary, and we just assign the key to albums. And then down here in the render, all we have to do is render again, request, template name, context. It's just the same thing, only this time the context actually has stuff in it. And in this case, that context is albums. Cool. So for album and albums, we have the album title by the artist, and then the year in parentheses, and then each album has a song. So we say for song and album.songs, yada, yada, yada. So what did I call this one? I forget, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Oh yeah, I called it app. So that's it. That's basically it. We had this H1, and we have the album name, and the title, and who it's by, and then the songs. So we have a loop inside a loop to show us that stuff. Fairly basic stuff, especially if you've been coding anything for a while. It's just a loop in a loop, only this time Django has their own template, and you get to use their template markup, and their template markup's fairly powerful. Just take note that you cannot directly run Python in it, like Python code in it. You have to build a template tag, but we're not going to get into that. But yeah, that's the cool thing about Django, is that a lot of the batteries are included. Okay? Cool. Let's see what I put for the slide. So yeah, we have our view here and our template here. Okay, but how do we store all this? Okay, do we store stuff in flat files? Has anybody ever stored something in a flat file for longer than a minute? Yeah. Do you still store things in flat files? Oh, God. Alex, why?
Because you can put them on S3.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. You analytics folks. So some people are sadists, so they do that. But we're not sadists. We're using Python. We like ourselves. Okay. Python's all about, you know, like making your life easier, using the shortcuts. So in this case, all we got to do is we use Django's powerful little ORM, which stands for what? Object Relational Mapper or something? Yes, I remember things. Keep in mind, I did not study comp sci. So instead of writing all this SQL and things like that, we wrote something called models. And models are basically just Python. They are Python objects, but because they're inheriting from this guy, the models of Django, the models module of Django, we can do some fancy things like, oh, here's our title column, here's our year column, and here's our artist column. Okay? Who knows what database columns are? Yeah? Okay, who knows what Excel is? Everybody knows what Excel is, right? Hopefully. And if you ever used a spreadsheet, it's the same thing. You could just think of it as that kind of relational database. Only it's much, much stronger, but we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details because that's not that kind of talk. But basically in a database, these are your columns, and your rows will be made as you need to. So you have your album, and you have your song. One more thing to keep note of is that Python and Django, in this case, will do your joins for you. Okay, so you have your album that you defined up here, and then you can actually refer to it as another column over here. And Python will do all the nitty-gritty details of keeping track of all the references in the background, so you don't have to look up, like, go get this album ID and remember what it is. No, it's super simple. Now, as a bonus for this, I also included some migrations. So if you're following, oh, did I not check out the tag? I did check out the tag. Anyway, well, I'll just check out that. So we have, oh, I didn't check out the correct tag. Anyway, for Django, we have this idea of migrations. So if you add a new column or something, you can initiate a migration. I covered that a little bit in the README. You don't really need to know it for this talk, other than I added a little bonus one. If you want to look at how to manually write a Python migration, in this case, you do it so I can fill up the database right away for this presentation. So I literally just copied and pasted that music in that case so that I'd have something to look at. Well, that's all fine and dandy. So let's take another look at the models real quick. Again, you just have to go through, define its char field, positive integer field, all this other fun stuff. What's this string thing? Well, how do you represent what this is going to be, right? It still has to know something about the data that you're trying to encapsulate. But don't take my word for it. Let's take a look in the shell. So whenever I'm coding, I usually have a Django shell open. And I always take like 10 minutes to figure out where I left it open, but here it is. So in this case, we'd say frub wemp db dot what models import album song. Cool. So album is what? Well, it's just a thing. Well, what happens if I do help? I get a lot of interesting information. Oh, what's this song set thing? That's interesting. Da, da, da. Let's make one. Album.objects.create. Title equals, give me an album title. Dark Side of the Moon. Sweet. Track, or sorry, year. Who knows what year that came out in?
79, maybe? I don't know.
Sometime in the 70s. And I screwed everything up.
We got Google. Googlers.
Yeah, somebody has Google, right?
73.
Okay, who can answer the question, where were you in 73?
I wasn't like,
And the artist is who? Come on. Pink Floyd, not Eminem. Oh. Boom. So we have this album object now. And look, it says album Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, right? Say album. So let's say we want to get one, and we want to get all the albums that were made in 1973. Boom, we have this album, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Yeah, here it is. Ah, what's that one called? Do you remember how to do this? Print the SQL query? There it is. So here's something cool. Instead of having to memorize all this SQL by hand, you can actually find this object that we just grabbed by filtering, and it's just called a query set object. And you can keep adding to it if you want it. So what's a good idea? Let's do another album. Let's create another album real quick. And we're going to call it The Wall. When did The Wall come out? Anybody?
Fairly confident 77. 80s.
I'm going to go with 77.
79.
79? Okay. 79. So we're going to make another album too, whatever. And now we're going to look at all albums by this artist. So now we have 2 albums, right? Well, what did Django do in the background? It did this. So if ever your DevOps person's like, what are you doing? You're like, oh, I know exactly how to write SQL. And then you just print it. And you say, oh, yeah. And literally, this is all being done in the background. You know what's really cool about this? Django doesn't care if it's Postgres, MySQL, or in this case, it's just SQLite 3. It also has other backends that you could use if you wanted to switch your DB backend. I know people who have used it with Mongo, sadists. I know people who've used it with Boracle, also sadists. And I know people who've used it with MS SQL. Just don't, but they have. But guess what? It's all the same model object. So that's the beauty of Django models. You can also do really cool stuff like, I don't know, what's a good song from Dark Side of the Moon? I really want to Google it now. I really want to listen to it. Anyway.
Money?
Yeah, okay. What track is it?
I don't know.
On the Run is track 2. So let's do that. Let's make a track. So T equals song, objects.create, title equals
On the Run.
On the Run. Duration was what, like 355? Doesn't matter. Track was 2. Now it's going to give me an error because I need to tell which album that was on, right? So in this case, we can grab the album and we can do, I don't want to spell out the whole Dark Side of the Moon. I don't feel like it. So we can do title underscore underscore starts with equals dark. And look, it grabbed it. So there's these magical little underscore functions. And we're going to make a song. Actually. Where'd it go?
Show the sequel for the double underscore.
Oh yeah. Yeah, nice. Nice idea. Query. Where'd it go? Oh, it grabbed the object itself. It didn't get the the query set.
Filter.
Yeah. Now the reason for that is that get will return the object, whereas filter will return the query set. So in this case, here's the query. So like dark.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And what was I doing before? I was trying to make a song, I think. Okay, there we go. And not null, but here it is, album equals A. And it must be an album instance. What did I do wrong? Oh, it's a query set. So a query set's just a list. So you can just do a 0 right there. Boom, live coding in action. And here's song on the run. And we can also say t.album, and that'll give us the album. But here's something cool too. We can also do A, which is our album.song. Was A the album? Yeah, oh wait, actually A equals, I'm gonna cheat here. Okay, now A dot song, and I'm just hitting tab. And I can go backward too. What's the question?
Does Django sanitize inputs and when?
Let's break it. Let's try to create an album. I have to actually type it. Title equals 7, and I'm not going to put anything else. And yes, it will return an error telling me the not null constant failed. I need the year. Okay, let's add the year. And the album.title is 7. And yes, it knows like how to take that char and turn it into an integer, or that integer and turn it into a char and put it into the database as it needs to.
But if you, up above when you search the underscore stuff starts with, if you had put in, you know, quote, semicolon, drop tables.
Yeah, it does, definitely. And it takes care of all of that for you. Now, that's a really good point. So we have this, but what's the point? Let's actually take a look.
Can you SQL inject it?
Well, let's build a form first. We're kind of jumping the gun here, right?
All the database backends that Django uses already escape all that stuff.
Yeah. So it's already doing the right thing. What's the name of this?
But you could write your own backend, you know, that didn't do that.
You can also
I don't think
disable
Django
it
would check.
if you want.
Oh, here it is.
Is that going to be your first kid? Little Bobby kid.
Okay, so this doesn't actually feed into a model yet, and I'll show you that in 1 sec, but this is another thing. Is I wrote this form with Django. I wasn't going to show this, but look, this is the form. That's it. It's just Python. So something, duration, 1 hour and 78 seconds. See, I didn't sanitize this part, so it'll still think 178 is a thing. But this is what Django sees, okay? And it's sanitizing that input. I could do drop something, and it doesn't care. I could put an emoji in. I said I can put an emoji in. Of course you don't work, Mac. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna put a snake in there. And look, it can even see the Unicode. So it doesn't, it's all Unicode compatible. It has all the batteries included. It's doing all this heavy lifting for you.
Don't try that in Python too, you'll be sad.
Yes, you will.
And also, in the MySQL, if you use the MySQL backend, there's some serious limitations with that.
Yes, that's true. This is SQLite and it's handling it for some reason. Okay, whoa, what happened here? Well, I went to /admin. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, batteries included. This is what I saw Ken messing around with Joe when we first met. You were like, oh, okay, this. I literally saw this blue bar of mystery, and I knew exactly what you guys were working on. So, but in this case, I forgot to add a super user, and I forgot the command, so I just go manage.py help. And where is it? What? Create super user? Right there? Where? Oh, yeah. And that's part of the auth. And look, it's another thing that you could actually code yourself if you want. I'm not going to get into it. But you can make one of these management commands too. So I'm going to create a super user. It knows that my name's Ferris. Ferris at example.com. And something I discovered is new about Django 1.11 is that it really insists on having a strong password. Yes, okay, so I'm gonna put in Ferris, I'm gonna put in my strong password, I can't put password anymore. Tisk, tisk. And check this out. All I did here to do this thing, not in there, it's admin, is I made these things called admin references, or admin class inheritance, and there's this Django.contrib import admin, and it almost looks just like the models we were working with, right? We're just inheriting something somebody else already wrote. Let's take a look at the models. Yeah, so we're just looking at these, and look, it's basically inheriting this. Instead, we're inheriting this. Okay, that's all fine and dandy. If we go in here, we get a list view. That's cool.
Do you have search implemented for albums if you type in a song name?
You can do whatever search you want by just adding the fields that you want. And that I already implemented. For a song name,
Yeah, so it's pretty easy to add that sort of thing where if you type a song name into the albums form, it'll pull up the albums that have it.
oh, backwards, yes. I think we can underscore this, right? So it would be, no, I don't think we can because it's that backward relation. So I'd have to write a quick function to do that, right? For what he's asking, I was thinking it would be something like song set like this, but I don't think that'll work because Django's not that smart yet. So you actually have to write something like get song, and then you use that as a search field.
I thought you could just go, what's the song model? It's called song, right? You could just go song underscore title.
Let's try it.
I think you can go up, but not down.
Yeah. So we can go album title like this, and that'll work.
Okay.
I think. Watch it break. Maybe. Okay, so here's the albums, and here's the songs, and we're gonna say dark side, and look, it figured it out. Yep, it goes backward. Pretty nifty. Don't clap for me, clap for Django. I'm just glad I figured it out during a live demo. Yeah. Cool. Also, batteries included. We have these things called generic views. So let's say we just want to have a list of all of our albums or a list of all of our songs. Well, we just go to add, I forgot where I put it. Okay, I put that under, where did I put that? Oh yeah, DB, okay. And this should just be an index, but it isn't. DB songs, come on Ferris, get with the program. Boom. And look how they're all URL'd right here. Well, Django actually has a built-in function, so instead of having to go one by one through all those URLs, which I remember having to do in Python and wanting to shoot myself, you can use this Django template function called URL, and because we named the URLs, we can actually say, here's album list, album detail, and we know where it goes. Here's the parameter, now we're going to find it by that number. So pay attention to the URL, song 6. Songs, here's the album, now it goes albums 1, songs 1. And that's just the database ID. But you could make it into a slug as well, which means you could make this into some kind of char input or something like that. Pretty clever. That's all fine and dandy. So here's the detail view, here's the URLs, here's the admin view. That's great. Okay, now the front end guy's yelling at us. He's like, I don't want to code any Django templates. This is stupid. I just want to use my Angular React Ember Meteor framework that is the hotness that I read about on a blog like 2 days ago, and we have to use it because everybody's using it because I read it on a blog. So we say, okay, this is going to be super hard for me. Oh my goodness. And we pip install Django REST framework. And then we're like, oh my goodness, you have to make sure they think it's really hard, people, okay? This is important, okay? Do not tell them that you can write this in 15 minutes. Never, okay? Because it's just this easy. All you have to do is import REST Framework serializers. Now, REST Framework is not specifically Django, but it's It's,
should be.
it should be. It isn't, but it should be.
It installs Django though, so you can't
Yeah.
use it without installing Django.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to show you API star, and it's going to blow your mind if we have time. We haven't enough time. I'm going to spend like 5 minutes to cover API star. But yeah, basically, all you're doing is telling it which fields to look at. Again, you're telling it, hey, I have this foreign key. Now just use the ID from that foreign key, and we put it on API. Oh, I forgot to add the slash. Okay, and I forgot to add the V1. Okay, boom. So Django REST framework is freaking awesome because it lets you do things like this, where it actually documented everything. That's all I wrote, was literally the serializer and the view set. And the view sets are even like smaller. And the router, which is the URLs that I got myself confused with, but literally it's these 3 files. And lo and behold, look at that, you actually have a full-on JavaScript API ready to go, and you can go and like pretend to be working, but actually like browse Reddit all day because you actually just use Django REST framework. And it's like, oh yeah, it took me forever to write that JSON model. And they're like, oh, but can it like take a post? It's like, yeah, actually we could. So we can post to it, and we can actually test the post to it. Let's see if I can do this. Think. And I went ahead and made it so it's nested, so this should actually work. Boom, and that posted. Got a 201 created. I'm also telling exactly in the headers what I'm allowed to post back and forth, and boom, middleware's done. Any questions about this?
Do you know if that uses Swagger or
That's a very good question.
It exposes Swagger
Yes.
if you wanted to. I don't know if it's built in, but there's a lot of plugins that do it for you. But you have to use every part of the framework to get good Swagger.
But guess what? Tom Christie, the genius that he is who wrote this, came out with something new that doesn't require Django, and it doesn't require anything specific on the back end. And it is the new hotness, and I didn't bring any extra stickers, but here's the logo. It's API star right there. I highly recommend donating and following this project, because this is the sneak peek into what probably the next talk in like 3 years is going to look like. It'll probably be, oh, nobody's using Django anymore, use this. So this is API Swagger, or sorry, this is API star, and it does do Swagger.
What?
Yes, and it is where is it? Web bonus. Here we go. So basically, how this one works? Yeah. Do you see this little guy? Does anybody know what this is? Async. Who's seen this? Who's used this in production yet? Who can explain async better than I can? Go for it.
So Python is traditionally like single-threaded, single operation all the way through. But in Python 3.5, they introduced async operators. And so it sort of allows you to sort of like go do a bunch of things at once and then sort of wait on them to get back. So it's more like a node or a JavaScript.
Yeah, so it's like JavaScript, basically.
Like Go.
Yeah, so actually not only is it like JavaScript, it's faster. It's faster than C. I don't know how he did it. He's like, I think he sacrificed like his firstborn. like it's Tom Christie's a genius. That's all I'll say about it. But definitely follow the API Swagger, or sorry, API star, the one with little rocket ship. API star, like write it down, Google it, look it up later tonight. But all of this stuff that we're talking about, he's using, there's not a good example here, but he's using Python's typing system, the new 3.6 typing system. So where it says session, you're now telling it what type to expect. In this case, it's session. But you can actually, if I took the time to do this, you can say type is album.
Actually, type is available much earlier.
Oh, 3.5. Yeah. But async's a little bit better in 3.6, which is why I'm running it in 3.6. But yeah, this typing, like unlike other kinds of Python where you don't actually have to define the type in here, if you define the type, it just hints at it and it says, oh, I'm actually expecting this in here. And then API star is saying, oh, okay, I have this cat object, I have this kitten object, and it does all that. Let's see.
Sorry, is it sit on top of Django, or is it?
It's its own thing. I made it install on top of Django, but it's its own thing. And look, it even has its own. Yeah, you should be saying that. It has its own doc view. It can actually show you source in JavaScript and Python, and he has already added Swagger to this. Authentication has been, I didn't put it on this, but it's been implemented. And yeah, this is amazing stuff. But yeah, when you start to get really advanced and you get bored of Django and Django REST framework, take a look at API Swagger. Use it instead of, I did it again. API star. Do you know why I say that? It's because at work we have to write our Swagger docs by hand, and I've been staring at that stupid API Swagger folder for the last 2 weeks. And I keep thinking to myself, why am I not writing in like API star where it would just do this for me? So that's why I keep saying that. But yeah, I got to the advanced part, and I haven't even documented the advanced part yet. But yeah, so that's my talk. You can feel free to take a look at all this. Tonight and tomorrow I'll be adding more links and resources. I did just put this together like on Sunday. But yeah, that's Django. Any questions? Go.
The thing that I've always heard about Django is that you get the kitchen sink, whether you want it or not necessarily, as opposed to like a pyramid where it's just teeny tiny. What do you say?
I've met the pyramid authors and they're jerks. That's my first point. And yeah, I'm saying that. Like, if they ever read this, I want them to know that. And then the other thing, it is a little bit kitchen included. API Star actually has a whole thing about using Django with it. And yeah, and you can turn things off, but
Please do get the whole McMansion.
yeah, here, let's take a look at how they did it. Because I wanted to show this.
I've always, I've written multiple projects, in production with Flask and Django, and almost invariably the Flask projects end up being like, oh, well, we need to do some database stuff. Oh, well, we need to do some authentication stuff. Oh, wouldn't it be great if we had an admin page? And you're sort of like, could we just have started with Django?
So
you have to know, you have to be very clear on what you want to do, and then you can say, okay, we're not going to do Django. But if you're sort of like, well, we're just going to do something, just start with Django, and you'll save yourself a bunch of trouble.
So an API Star project, by the way, it looks like this, where you just have the settings as a single dictionary, and you literally just need the databases and the installed apps, and it won't install the rest. So you don't actually get all the batteries except for the ORM. So you write your models as you want, and then note here, it uses its own session manager for its ORM. So you can use the Django ORM, but then when it's actually to migrate and do the initial migrations and all that, but when it's actually reading and writing to that database, it's using its own session manager. So it doesn't have all of the batteries included, just exactly what it needs. So really, you won't be importing the templating framework or the authentication or anything like that.
Did they need benchmarks of how comparison speaks like Node or Go?
They have.
That was not a setup question though.
Yeah, well, too bad.
Well, under API Star is using UV Loop, which is the same
author
that runs Node, right? So it's just it's based on good stuff.
Compared to Falcon, it's getting more JSON responses a second. I'm looking at this real quick, and compared to Node.js, it's about 23% faster. I don't know. I couldn't speak to that. All I know is that according to his benchmarks, because if you write your own benchmarks, they better be better than the competition. It's faster. So
those aren't his benchmarks.
I know they're Tech and Power.
Yeah.
So if you're going to post benchmarks and select the right ones, they better be better. But no, I've already noticed it's significantly faster. It does open up WebSockets. So maybe if channels gets deprecated, God forbid, because it's awesome. This actually has WebSockets as well, and the async stuff. He's written his own. Let's see. He has his own client library that it'll just host for you. So you can just grab it from there, and he actually has gone through how to grab it. So you know how we made a Django model? He also has his opinionated little library to create the core API model, which is basically the JavaScript equivalent of that Django model. So, but yeah, I don't want to take up more time because it's already 9:10, and I usually like to wrap up around now. But if you have more questions, talk to me definitely. That's my Django talk. It was more a workshop talk, discussion thing. Sorry it wasn't as great as it could have been, but yeah, thanks for your time. Any other last minute questions, thoughts? Okay, here's the fun part. We get to do the raffle. And just for fun, I'm going to use the Django shell this time. Okay, how many Pythonistas did we get to?
There's 63, but there's actually 36 of us.
He numbered them all.
Oh, you... Does that include me?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I guess if you're doing it by 1, then you're 64. But if you're doing the...
Okay, how many are there?
63 was the end number.
Okay, what is the number of Pythonistas?
36.
36, including myself.
But that's not going to work.
Because it goes above 36.
See?
Yeah, see,
you have to do the 63.
And then you just have to go and
Oh, yeah.
I was giving you 36 for your stats.
Okay.
Dave likes to make weird rules for things.
Yeah, right.
I made my life easier to make his life more complicated at the end.
Okay, well, let's draw. And does everybody have a number on their name tag?
Yep.
If you don't, raise your hand now. Okay, get a number. What number are you now? 64?
Does anybody have 64?
This is how hacky code becomes born. You're watching it. The first raffle, actually, we're just going to do it for just the book. If you want, we have a medium-sized team T-shirt. Would anybody like a T-shirt? Yeah. Okay.
I got it.
Shoot
it out of the cannon.
Where's the gun? Yeah.
You want it? Oh, there's 4 people who want it? Okay. Now I don't know what to do. Now I'm confused. Okay, come up here and fight to the death. If you want the shirt, come up here and we'll do something for it later. Let's draw for the book first. But seriously, you got to come up here for the shirt. The book is 2 scoops of Django, which apparently was handed out last month with much rejoicing, which is great.
This is the second book.
This
second giveaway of it.
This is the second giveaway of it. This is another signed copy to the Salt Lake City Python Meetup. Enjoy and cheers to all your Django projects. Aw. The other one had, if I'm not mistaken, it had an autograph stating that server racks can be used as emergency heating in the winter. Yeah.
I didn't look at theirs.
I remember something kind of funny. Seems like a lifetime ago.
Yeah. What? Oh.
I missed you.
Oh, yes.
What versions of Python and Django is it?
Sorry?
What versions of Python and Django?
111. The latest long-term support edition. This is the last 1.x Django. It's also the last one that'll support Django 2.7. Or sorry, Python 2.7. So.
Copyright's 2017. The copyright on it's 2017.
Yes. This was published in July. I got a first copy because 1.11. We went through this.
That was 5 and 6, but it's one's okay.
Yes, I have every single one that they published. These guys are awesome. They are a power couple team that worked on this book together. Has awesome illustrations. If you've ever read Y's Poignant Guide to Ruby, this is very much in the same theme of that. You build an ice cream shop with Django. So yeah, let's give that away. Who's 13?
Oh, that's me.
Isla! Woo!
It worked.
And if you want a shirt, come up here. This concludes our meetup. We're going to have our next one on the 4th of October. I'm not with it today. I don't know what it's going to be on. Hopefully something awesome about 3D something. Thanks for coming. Please drive home safe. Feel free to speak to me as I clean up. Help me. I'll probably assign you to clean up something if you talk to me though. But, and if you want the t-shirt, come on up.
No one wants it now.
Well, now they have to talk about it. It's going to go back to Dillonville. So.
Just go through stuff.
Oh, no, I saw that.
Goodbye, viewers.